Hello again, this is the Prim Reaper. Hey, check it out, new artwork already. Talk about defining my style. Anyway, I've been wanting to talk about certain things that have been bothering me for a long time, so I'm sorry if my first few videos revolve around old news or are a little bit more open and broad. But then again, if everyone is sort of covering the same new videos all at once, there's nothing that says you might not appreciate something a little different for now, at least until I catch up. In my first video, I talked about a few reasons I prefer to call myself an egalitarian instead of a feminist. I suppose, in a sense, you could call this video a continuation of that last discussion. However, this point is broad enough that it pretty much needed its own separate thing. Basically, when I hear a lot of feminists talking about issues that women face today, I gotta say, as a woman myself, I'm honestly just not feeling it most of the time. I can think of any number of concerns that feminists discuss in the Western world, and generally speaking, I think they're either overblown, irrelevant, or straight out disproven. I will be going over several of these feminist issues in this and the next few videos and putting forth my personal perspectives on each of them. To help me discuss some of these talking points, let me introduce my lovely assistant, Jane. Made her myself. Stayed up all night. Built out of the finest hay that I could find. What do you mean she's a straw man? Jane prefers to be referred to as a straw person, thank you very much. So tell me, Jane, what are a few of the issues that feminists are concerned with today?
It's not my job to educate you, shitlord.
But that's... Okay, whatever. Google it is. I searched Google with the pretty broad term feminist issues, and I'm just going to list the concerns that I saw across several different pages. These will be divided across 2 or 3 videos just to avoid any of them becoming too long-winded. Also, I'll be listing the sources I use for my claims below the video should anyone want to see them. First of all, before I acknowledge any of the specific issues, I'll note the major umbrella category that nearly all of these issues fall under: the ubiquitous patriarchy. I want to be very clear here. I don't think that we in the Western world live under a patriarchy. It just doesn't fly with me. I had a friend confront me when I said this to her, like, "You don't believe we're living in a patriarchy?" As though I'd said I thought the sky was green. I said, yeah, no. It's plain to see that we're not living in a patriarchy just by comparing ourselves to a few actual patriarchies around the world. Are we in a country that actively prioritizes male children over female children? No. Are we in a country that prohibits women from doing what they want without the permission or supervision of men? No. Were you required to take your husband's name when you got married when you didn't want to? No. Are we a country that does not afford women the same career options should they choose to want to enter those fields and successfully complete the required training as men? No. We're not living in a patriarchy. As a Western woman, you are a member of one of the freest classes of the world. It really pisses me off how many feminists fail to see this because they're either getting bogged down by piddly bullcrap or are acting like issues that affect both sexes only affect women. Anyway, on to the actual lists of feminist issues. One of the top ones on there is domestic violence. Far be it from me to state that domestic violence is not an issue in relationships. It's a horrible thing for anyone to go through. But you know what? Men go through it too, at close to equal rates no less. Women often tend to face harsher forms of violence, but the point still stands. Additionally, when women go through domestic violence, they generally have a lot of services and domestic violence shelters available to them in their community to help them out. Unfortunately, more often than not, men don't. Having volunteered for a couple of years at a crisis hotline, I've had a difficult time on more than one occasion finding resources for men who are suffering from domestic abuse. One of the options readily available is a hotline for men who are experiencing urges to commit domestic violence. Lovely. I don't even know what I'm supposed to tell them in that situation. Like, try to get the abuse on video so that if you call the police, they won't immediately assume you're the perpetrator. Domestic violence is rough no matter who it happens to, but it really breaks my heart that only one half of the sexes actually gets any help and support when it happens to them. While I'm on the subject of violence, I can also briefly cover the issue of violence and sexual assault in general as well. One of the main things that I hear feminists talking about is how they don't feel safe when walking alone. Well, putting aside the fact that many of them recoil when told to take measures to protect themselves, don't tell women not to get raped, tell men not to rape anyone. Really, nobody can say that they feel safe when walking alone, because men are actually more likely to face violence from strangers than women. Men are more likely to be assaulted with a weapon, robbed, and murdered, not necessarily all at once, than women, though women are more likely to face sexual violence than men. And don't even get me started on the 1 in 5, or is it 1 in 4? They always seem to be changing that number. Statistic for women facing sexual violence on college campuses. If your survey is conflating violent penetration with unwanted touching or attention, then all you're doing is falsely inflating the risks and making people more afraid than they ought to be, which is shameful. Another one that comes up on almost every list is the gender pay gap, which I'm just so ridiculously tired of hearing about because it's been debunked so many times. Let me be clear. Men do make more money than women. However, it's not because they're being paid higher amounts for the same labor. Men choose the riskiest, most dangerous, most unpleasant, or most difficult work in society, and they also tend to do more overtime than women overall. If a man and a woman go into med school, the man might be more likely to choose to focus in high-stress brain surgery, whereas the woman might be more likely to go into family care or pediatrics. First, note that I said might, as this is not always the case. And second, note that I said choose. Though not 100% guaranteed, it is much more common for women to make educational choices that will yield lower financial gain. But this isn't without fields trying their hardest to get women interested. Currently, women are favored for hiring in STEM fields almost 2 to 1 compared with men, just because everyone is desperate to get women in these lines of work. Unfortunately, a lot of women still just don't want to do these jobs. They often choose to go into more socially oriented forms of work, are more likely to work part-time, and are more likely to want to take more leave to raise children. So if these enormous incentives, both financial and preferential treatment in hiring, aren't enough to attract women to STEM or other high-stress work, then what do feminists propose we do? Force them? If women on average really aren't as interested in doing this kind of work, is this really such a bad thing? Look at women in the Netherlands, for example. They are considered one of the best countries in the world for women to live. And there, women choose to work even less than they do in Canada and the US. The notion that women can have it all, family and a high-powered, influential career, puts a lot of strain on women's happiness, and it really shouldn't come as too much of a surprise that when given the choice, as in the Netherlands, many women choose to opt for a family and more free time rather than a high-stress career or longer hours at work. In my opinion, forcing quotas in various fields of work for more women, strangely enough, rarely in areas such as construction or plumbing, but I digress, will not result in greater equality between the sexes. When women do express interest in these fields, they should be supported and assisted as needed. But when they don't, we shouldn't take this as evidence of sexism, especially with all of the additional enticements. In a related topic, one of the next big feminist concerns is women in positions of power or parliament. The question here is, once again, how many women actually desire to hold these positions of power? Is this a common thing that women are attempting to get into and are just being stonewalled? Given how many quotas there are for women in other fields, I have a hard time imagining that this is the case here. But as is true with other diversity quotas, I have a difficult time believing that having them in politics will truly result in the best people for the job being chosen. Look at Justin Trudeau's gender equal cabinet in Canada. He had a golden opportunity when asked about why he decided to do this, to talk about some of his choices and their qualifications to do those jobs being on par with the male cabinet members. But instead, he decided to make a ridiculous appeal to the current year as if that actually means anything. It really makes him look like he's just picking people based on what's between their legs, which is hardly a defensible position when you're claiming to be against sexual discrimination. Also, when your choices include things like a social worker for dealing with revenue, or a family physician for Indigenous and Northern Affairs, it can lead people to wonder whether you actually chose the best person for the job or simply said, you're a woman, you'll do. Like I said before, we can't force women to take jobs they don't want. If women try to get into these high-powered fields, they ought to be hired based on qualifications, exactly like everyone else. You know, on equal playing field to men. If I get a job, I don't want it to be because I'm filling a quota and bumped a more qualified dude out of the position. That would make me feel terrible. I want to get hired because I'm the best person that applied for that position. If I apply for a job with a master's degree and a man applies for that same job with a PhD, I'd expect him to be hired. If I apply for a firefighter position and I can't pass the physical qualifications, then clearly I can't stack up enough to do the job properly. Lowering the qualifications just to suit my needs when it could result in someone getting killed if I can't break down a door in a burning building would be crazy after all, right? And maybe if you open an electrical engineering company and you get 49 men who apply and only one woman, maybe you should just accept the fact that maybe fewer women are interested in electrical engineering than men are, and look at the qualifications on the damn resumes than try and hire based on sex or skin color. I think that'll be enough for now for this first video. I didn't originally intend for this topic to be so long, but hey, turns out I have a lot to say about a lot of the common feminist issues. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next installment.